So what are you doing in Nebraska, Curt?
Well, Nebraska for many years now, as you well know, I don't need to tell you this, that has been one of the key states that has a real opportunity to end the death penalty in a relatively short period of time. I was actually here 10 years ago working on a case, the Randy Reeves case, which was just an amazing experience. But since then, things have really advanced in the death penalty movement overall, but in Nebraska particularly, with the strong possibility of abolition. There was a moratorium that was passed, even though the governor vetoed it a number of years ago. You know, coming within a vote of repeal 2 years ago, and then, you know, in this past session coming close, not quite close enough, but what we're doing here, what I'm doing here, is to assist and to work with NADP and folks who I've already built some relationships with, and I'm here with Curtis McCarty, who's done extensive work in Nebraska. He's from Oklahoma's death row, and he's done a tremendous amount of speaking across the state. So really to provide some assistance, whatever we can do to aid with the repeal efforts that are underway here.
What would be your message to somebody who says, you know, I saw this guy on this TV show, and he was talking about the number of people who are exonerated off of death row, but you know, it's not really going to happen. It doesn't happen very often. What would be your response to somebody who would say that?
Well, the question is how many is too many? I mean, is it 5, 10, 20 people that are innocent that make it not okay to have the death penalty? I think that being able to determine if someone, you know, with finality is innocent or guilty, which we can't in an imperfect system run by humans, means that we can't have the death penalty. So one person is too many. And again, as long as you have a system that's run by human beings, you're going to have that possibility of error. And I don't know whether there's anyone on Nebraska's death row who is innocent. I do know that Nebraska is no different from any other state in the country in that it has a criminal justice system run by human beings and has the very real potential of sentencing an innocent human being to death if it continues to keep the death penalty.
In Nebraska, we have, I believe, 9 people on death row. There's a couple million, 2.5 million, 3 million people in Nebraska. Why is this important to somebody who has no interaction with one of those 9 inmates, has no interaction maybe with any criminals in their life? I mean, why would they be concerned about the death penalty?
I think it's important on several levels. For numerous reasons, I think the death penalty is bad public policy, and we can talk at length about issues of cost and deterrence, which, you know, it costs more to have the death penalty than not to have it. So it's not economically sound policy. It's not a deterrent to violent crime. That's never been proven. But in terms of the innocence issue, which is the perspective I work on the death penalty from, the reality is it could happen to anyone. Ray Cronin, who I mentioned earlier, who is our director of communications and training, is somebody who was in his church choir growing up. He was a Boy Scout. He was in the top 10% of his graduating class in high school. He went into the Air Force and then became a mail carrier. And then at the age of 35, with no criminal record whatsoever, suddenly finds himself on Arizona's death row for a crime he did not commit, and spent 10 years in prison. Was resentenced to essentially a life sentence, and finally was exonerated in 2002. He's a classic example of a person can be leading a perfectly normal, stable life and get caught in the system for no other reason than he happened to be a customer at the bar where a bartender was killed, and was sleeping at the time when it happened, and yet was considered to be the leading suspect, and they just would not let go of that until finally they, through DNA evidence, found the right person, the person who actually committed the crime. So, you know, if it can happen, as Ray says, to him, it can happen to any of us.
How long was he on death row?
He was on death row for almost 3 years, but again, he was resentenced to what was essentially a life term when he got a second trial, and then spent another 7 years in prison. Finally, he was again exonerated when they found the right person, and even then, the prosecutors did not want to acknowledge that he was innocent.
So we're talking to Curt Rosenberg. He's the director of Witness to Innocence from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And we're talking about innocent people who are put on death row, and the fact that there are 130 of these people that this has happened to. And Curt's organization is an advocacy group that works with those populations, provides them support, and also those that are willing, helps them go across the country and carry an anti-death penalty message. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. Talk to me a little bit about the national death penalty movement. Sometimes in Nebraska, you know, we're in the middle of the country and we're here, and many of us are fighting hard to abolish the death penalty. Some people are still in favor of it, obviously, but what does it look like on the national landscape? I mean, who do you work with?
We work with as many states as we can, and as many state organizations, I should say, you know, whatever resources we have to support efforts going on around the country to end the death penalty. But there are several states that right now are fairly close, and I think have a good chance in the coming legislative session in 2009 to actually end the death penalty, and join New Jersey, which a year ago became the first state in the modern era to abolish the death penalty. And those states right now are New Mexico, Maryland, and Montana being the leading states. And of course, Nebraska has been close. It looks like it's probably going to be another couple of years before abolition can be realized in Nebraska. Fortunately, there's no method of execution currently on the books that's legal, but I think we've made tremendous progress in the last 10 to 12 years nationally, and you know, in various states that have moved forward and have much greater capacity than they formerly did to end the death penalty, Nebraska being a perfect example.